Have you ever witnessed injustice so blatant, so cruel, that it made your heart stop? Imagine this. You walk into a restaurant, hungry, ready to eat with your child, and suddenly, you're told, "We don't serve people like you." What would you do? Would you shout, cry, leave quietly? Or would you stand tall and turn that pain into power? Before we dive in, let me ask you, what would you have done if this happened to your father or mother? And do you believe that silence or action is the most powerful response to racism? Drop your thoughts in the comments as you listen. And if you love real stories that uncover pain, resilience, and power, make sure to hit subscribe to Skin Deep Stories, because here, we tell the truths many are too afraid to say. Now, let's enter this powerful story. James was a hardworking father, a man of quiet dignity, whose hands were calloused from years of labor and sacrifice. He raised his son, Elijah, to believe in kindness, strength, and self-respect, even when the world offered none in return. One Sunday afternoon, James and Elijah walked into a diner, a place filled with the smell of fried chicken and fresh biscuits. Elijah had been looking forward to this father-son lunch all week. But as soon as they sat down, the atmosphere shifted. Conversations hushed. Eyes turned. The waitress, with a stiff smile, leaned forward and whispered not softly enough, "We don't serve your kind here." James froze. His face hardened, but his lips trembled. He had been through this before, in his youth, but never in front of his son. He looked at Elijah, just 12 years old, eyes wide with confusion. James quietly took his son's hand, ready to leave without a word, to shield him, to avoid conflict. But Elijah, too young to fully understand racism, but old enough to recognize injustice, stood up. His small voice shook the silence of the room. "My dad works 2 jobs to feed me. He's a better man than any of you sitting here. And if you won't serve us food, then we won't serve you." Silence. The diner went silent. Forks stopped clinking. Heads turned. A child had spoken the truth adults had buried. Someone in the back clapped. Then another. And suddenly, half the diner, black and white, stood up in agreement. The waitress, her face red with shame, muttered something and rushed to the back. Elijah's words didn't just echo in that diner. Someone had recorded it. By the next morning, the video had spread across social media like wildfire. News outlets picked it up. Strangers began showing up at James' house, not with hate but with support. Letters, donations, even strangers thanking Elijah for his courage. But here's the twist no one expected: the owner of the diner. He wasn't just embarrassed by the backlash. He was exposed. Investigations revealed he had a long history of discrimination, firing black employees unfairly, denying service quietly for years. Elijah's moment of truth didn't just change one day. It brought down the diner entirely. The diner closed, but Elijah, he opened something much greater, a movement at his school called Voices of Courage. It started with 10 kids. Within a year, hundreds were meeting weekly, talking about racism, equality, and justice. And it all began because a little boy refused to let his father leave in silence. What would you have done if you were Elijah? Would you have had the courage to speak up? Or would you have stayed quiet to keep the peace? Sometimes it only takes one voice, no matter how small, to shake the walls of injustice. Share your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to hit subscribe to Skin Deep Stories for more true, powerful, and emotional stories that the world needs to hear. And remember, sometimes, the people society tries to silence become the very voices that change everything. Months later, James received a letter, not from the diner owner, but from one of the waitress's daughters. She wrote, "I saw what happened. My mother was wrong. I left home because of how hateful she was. But watching Elijah gave me the courage to stand up to her too. Please tell your son he didn't just save you. He saved me." That's the shocker. Not only did Elijah's words bring down a racist system, they healed someone trapped inside it.